global warming was orchestrated by the government. Government weather modification programs dating back to the 1940s laid the groundwork for the most ambitious social engineering project in human history. Project Stormfront began as localized cloud seeding operations, but expanded into coordinated atmospheric manipulation by the 2010s. The High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program served as the primary testing facility for ionospheric heating techniques that would later influence global temperature patterns. By 2025, leaked internal memos reveal Operation Greenhouse Glass will deploy 17 strategically positioned facilities worldwide to maintain artificially elevated carbon dioxide concentrations. These installations, disguised as renewable energy research centers, actually function as atmospheric processors designed to trap heat at predetermined levels. The goal involves creating controlled climate instability to justify expanded governmental authority over energy consumption, transportation, and food production. Weather balloon releases containing thermally reactive compounds occur during routine meteorological monitoring missions. Citizens mistake these releases for normal atmospheric research, while the compounds gradually accumulate in the stratosphere to enhance heat retention. By 2032, Phase 3 protocols activate continent-specific climate zones through targeted electromagnetic pulse bursts. Northern regions experience artificially extended winter seasons to drive population migration toward government-controlled urban centers in temperate zones. The carbon credit trading system functions as wealth redistribution from developed nations to emerging economies under direct governmental influence. Corporate compliance costs force small businesses into bankruptcy, consolidating market control among government-approved multinational corporations. Emergency climate legislation bypasses traditional democratic processes, establishing permanent executive authority over resource allocation and population movement. The manufactured crisis justifies surveillance networks monitoring individual carbon footprints and travel patterns. Underground resistance movements by 2035 will discover backup atmospheric processors hidden within existing infrastructure, revealing the true scope of coordinated global temperature manipulation designed to reshape civilization according to predetermined social hierarchies.
Like this video and subscribe to Maker.
Nuclear holocaust never happened. By the early 2030s, declassified documents will reveal that every major nuclear incident from Hiroshima to Chernobyl was an elaborate psychological operation designed to maintain global power structures. The theory emerges when former Department of Energy whistleblowers release footage showing Hollywood-grade sets beneath the Nevada test site, complete with miniature cities and advanced pyrotechnics equipment dating back to 1945. Proponents claim that nuclear weapons were developed as intended, but proved too unstable for actual deployment. Instead, military contractors working with major film studios created increasingly sophisticated detonation simulations. The Manhattan Project scientists, rather than creating weapons of mass destruction, perfected large-scale special effects that could convince both enemy nations and domestic populations of nuclear capability. The Chernobyl disaster of 1986 becomes reframed as a controlled demolition using conventional explosives, with radiation readings artificially inflated through the strategic placement of medical isotopes throughout the exclusion zone. Geiger counter-manufacturers allegedly participated in the deception by programming devices to display elevated readings in designated areas. By 2034, leaked insurance documents will show that major nuclear facilities were actually elaborate movie sets, with power companies receiving substantial government subsidies to maintain the illusion of nuclear energy production. The cooling towers served as massive props, while electricity was generated through undisclosed fossil fuel plants located miles underground. The theory gains momentum when satellite imagery analysis reveals that supposed nuclear test craters in various desert locations match the dimensions and blast patterns of controlled mining explosions, suggesting decades of coordinated geological manipulation to create false evidence of nuclear testing programs. Hitler is cryogenically frozen. Adolf Hitler did not die in his bunker in Berlin on April 30th, 1945. Instead, Nazi scientists successfully completed Operation Eyesight, a top-secret cryogenic preservation program developed in the final months of World War II. The technology originated from captured alien artifacts recovered during the 1938 German Antarctic expedition, specifically from the supposed Neuschwabenland base. These extraterrestrial devices provided the advanced cooling systems necessary to preserve human tissue indefinitely without cellular damage. 3 days before the fall of Berlin, Hitler's body double was executed in the bunker, while the real Führer was transported via submarine to a facility beneath the ice sheets of Antarctica. There, using a combination of alien technology and prototype German engineering, his body was frozen at -196 degrees Celsius and placed in a specially constructed preservation chamber. The facility, designated Bunker Null, remains operational under the management of a secret Nazi remnant organization called the Fourth Reich Council. This group has spent the past 80 years developing the necessary medical technology to successfully revive Hitler when global conditions become favorable for a return to power. Intelligence sources suggest the revival process will be attempted in 2047, coinciding with the projected collapse of several major world governments due to climate-related resource wars. The Council believes these chaotic conditions will provide the perfect opportunity to re-establish fascist control over large portions of Europe and South America. The cryogenic chamber reportedly requires a specialized electromagnetic field generator powered by a small nuclear reactor, explaining the unusual seismic activity detected in that region of Antarctica since the late 1940s. Bougainville is a communist colony formed by the new USA. Following the Great American Restructuring of 2031, the newly reformed United States of America establishes its first overseas communist experiment on the island of Bougainville. This Pacific territory, which achieved independence from Papua New Guinea in 2027, becomes the testing ground for what internal documents refer to as Project Red Eagle. The operation centers around Bougainville's massive copper reserves, estimated at over 12 billion tons. The new USA, having embraced collective ownership principles after the Corporate Dissolution Acts, requires these minerals for their ambitious Green Revolution infrastructure program. Rather than traditional resource extraction, American operatives establish what appears to be a voluntary communist society. Local Bougainvillian leaders receive substantial cryptocurrency payments through untraceable blockchain networks. In exchange, they implement collective farming initiatives and shared ownership of the Panguna copper mine. The colony operates under the banner of indigenous self-determination, while American advisors coordinate all major economic decisions from a facility disguised as a sustainable agriculture research center. Satellite imagery reveals unusual geometric crop patterns that spell out Marxist slogans when viewed from above, though officials claim these are merely efficient planting arrangements. By 2035, Bougainville exports over 300,000 tons of copper annually directly to American-controlled processing facilities in the Marshall Islands. Local residents report improved living standards and universal health care, though outside journalists face consistent bureaucratic delays when attempting to visit the island. The experiment serves dual purposes: securing critical mineral resources while demonstrating that American-style communism can succeed where Soviet models previously failed. Intelligence sources suggest similar projects are planned for Madagascar and several Caribbean territories by 2038. December 7th was fake. The Pearl Harbor conspiracy enters its third evolution by 2032 when leaked Department of Defense quantum computing analysis allegedly proves the entire December 7th, 1941 attack was a sophisticated holographic projection. The original conspiracy claimed President Roosevelt knew about the Japanese attack in advance and allowed it to happen to justify entering World War II. The second wave suggested the attack was entirely fabricated using early film techniques and crisis actors. This future iteration builds on declassified documents from 2028, revealing that the military had been experimenting with large-scale holographic technology since 1938. The theory claims that what witnesses saw was actually a coordinated light show projected from hidden installations across Oahu, combined with pre-placed explosive charges and deliberately sunk decommissioned vessels. Believers point to the supposed discovery of underground projection facilities beneath Diamond Head crater and anomalous electromagnetic readings recorded by restored 1941-era equipment. They argue that the 2,400 casualties were either relocated to secret facilities or replaced with synthetic biological doubles. The conspiracy gains traction when amateur historians using advanced artificial intelligence to analyze thousands of hours of archived footage claim to identify impossible lighting angles and shadows that could only be created artificially. Military historians counter that these discrepancies result from the AI misinterpreting film grain and wartime camera limitations. By 2035, the theory expands to suggest that the entire Pacific Theater was a carefully orchestrated performance designed to test public compliance with large-scale deception operations, serving as a precursor to even more ambitious reality manipulation programs planned for the 2040s. Kepler 452 never made it. By the 2040s, NASA's ambitious Project Earthrise will attempt humanity's first interstellar voyage to Kepler 452b, located 1,400 light-years away in the constellation Cygnus. This Earth-sized exoplanet orbits within the habitable zone of a Sun-like star, making it a prime candidate for potential colonization. The mission will utilize breakthrough propulsion technology, combining antimatter engines with theoretical Alcubierre drive mechanics to achieve near-light-speed travel. However, conspiracy researchers predict that by 2051, allegations will surface, claiming the entire mission was an elaborate deception. The theory centers on the impossibility of maintaining communication across such vast distances, with critics noting that even at light speed, messages would take 1,400 years each way. Skeptics will point to inconsistencies in the mission telemetry data, particularly regarding fuel consumption rates and navigation adjustments that seem mathematically impossible given known physics. The spacecraft's final transmission, supposedly sent just before entering the Kepler system, will contain timestamp anomalies, suggesting it was pre-recorded on Earth. Additional evidence cited includes the convenient timing of a solar storm that allegedly disrupted all deep space communications during the critical landing phase. Former NASA contractors will come forward claiming the entire Mission Control Center was actually a sophisticated film set, with all exterior shots of the launch being computer-generated composites. The theory gains traction when whistleblowers reveal that the estimated mission cost of $2.7 trillion was secretly funneled into classified terrestrial projects, including underground bunker construction and climate modification technology. Financial auditors will discover that key mission components were never actually manufactured, with purchase orders leading to shell companies that dissolved immediately after receiving payment. By 2055, documentary filmmakers will uncover footage showing the supposedly departed spacecraft still in Earth orbit, disguised as space debris and maintained by automated systems. Sir George Orwell is a time traveler. Eric Arthur Blair, better known by his pen name George Orwell, did not simply write prophetic fiction about totalitarian surveillance states. According to classified documents scheduled to surface in 2037, Blair was a temporal refugee from the year 2052 who assumed the identity of a deceased British author to warn humanity about its impending dystopian future. The theory centers on Orwell's unnaturally precise predictions about modern surveillance technology in his novel 1984, published in 1949. telescreens that monitor citizens in their homes, thought police who detect dissent, and the concept of perpetual warfare between superstates allegedly came from Blair's first-hand experience living under the global collective government of 2052. Temporal displacement researchers claim Blair arrived in 1923 using a prototype chronological transfer device developed by underground resistance fighters. His mission involved establishing himself as a credible author to publish warnings disguised as fiction. The resistance chose the year 1923 specifically because it provided enough time for Blair to build literary credibility before releasing his most crucial warnings. Evidence supporters cite includes Blair's unusual knowledge of bureaucratic language manipulation, which he termed newspeak decades before corporate and political doublespeak became commonplace. His descriptions of 2 minutes hate sessions bear striking resemblance to social media outrage cycles that would not emerge until the 2010s. The conspiracy suggests Blair's other works, including Animal Farm, contained encoded information about corporate agricultural monopolies and genetic modification programs that would later emerge exactly as described. His essays on language degradation allegedly reference linguistic control methods the global collective government implemented in 2048. Documentation from Operation Temporal Scribes, expected to be declassified in 2041, will reportedly reveal that Blair was one of 12 time travelers sent to various periods to establish early warning networks. His premature death in 1950 resulted from temporal displacement syndrome, a condition affecting chronological refugees who spend extended periods outside their origin timeline. Barron Trump's involvement in the Ossetia War is a predicted 2040 conspiracy that claims the youngest son of a former United States president will play a behind-the-scenes role in reigniting tensions in the Caucasus region. The theory draws on earlier online speculation about the so-called Barron Trump time travel novels from the late 1800s, which conspiracy circles have linked to hidden elite bloodlines and coded predictions. In this future scenario, Barron is said to become an investor in several infrastructure projects in South Ossetia, including a controversial high-speed transport corridor connecting the Black Sea to northern trade hubs. According to the claim, these projects will be a cover for the installation of advanced surveillance systems disguised as traffic monitoring equipment. The systems will allegedly be part of a larger intelligence sharing agreement between private tech companies and select governments, sparking outrage among both local residents and rival nations. By 2041, theorists believe that leaked contracts and unusual travel records will surface online, showing Barron attending closed-door meetings in both Tbilisi and Moscow. This will be cited as proof that his humanitarian development mission was in fact a coordinated geopolitical move designed to influence the balance of power in the region under the guise of economic growth. History before 1243 is fictional. Advanced chronological analysis conducted in the 2040s will reveal that all recorded history prior to the year 1243 was artificially constructed by medieval monasteries working in coordination with emerging European monarchies. This systematic fabrication of the past allegedly served to legitimize royal bloodlines and establish the Catholic Church's authority over vast timelines that never actually occurred. The conspiracy builds upon the existing phantom time hypothesis, which claims that approximately 300 years were added to our calendar system. However, newly developed quantum archaeology techniques will supposedly demonstrate that the fabrication extends much further back, with virtually everything before the 13th century being complete fiction. Carbon dating inconsistencies that researchers have noted for decades will finally be explained through this revelation. The discrepancies occur because medieval scribes worked backward from 1243, creating elaborate historical narratives and then commissioning artifacts to match their invented timelines. Monastery workshops across Europe functioned as history manufacturing centers, producing aged documents, coins, and architectural elements designed to support their fictional chronologies. Digital analysis of manuscript writing patterns will reveal that texts attributed to different centuries were actually written by the same groups of scribes using artificially varied writing styles. The Dead Sea Scrolls, Roman historical records, and even ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs will be exposed as medieval productions created by surprisingly sophisticated forgery networks. This explains why so many historical accounts from different civilizations contain similar narrative structures and moral frameworks. The medieval creators simply recycled storylines across different supposed time periods and geographical locations, never anticipating that future technology would be able to detect these patterns with mathematical precision. The real human timeline apparently begins around 1243, making our actual recorded history less than 800 years old, rather than the thousands of years currently accepted by mainstream historians. Drones 12. The 12th phase of the Global Drone Monitoring Initiative will allegedly launch in 2032, according to leaked documents from a Department of Homeland Security contractor. This operation builds upon the 11 previous drone surveillance programs that have been quietly monitoring civilian populations since the 2010s. Unlike earlier phases that focused on external surveillance, Drones 12 will deploy microscopic aerial devices no larger than common houseflies into private residences across North America. These nanodrones, codenamed Buzzkills, can allegedly remain airborne for up to 6 months while recording audio and visual data from inside homes, offices, and vehicles. The technology reportedly evolved from research conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic, when governments tested contact tracing methods that required unprecedented levels of personal monitoring. Intelligence sources claim that the success of these early programs convinced officials that citizens would accept invasive surveillance if presented as a public safety measure. Each Buzzkill unit contains sensors capable of detecting emotional stress patterns, unusual financial activity discussions, and potential dissent indicators through voice pattern analysis. The devices allegedly transmit data through existing smart home networks, making detection nearly impossible for average consumers. Project documentation suggests that Drones 12 will target specific demographics based on social media activity, purchasing patterns, and geographic location data collected during the previous 11 phases. Citizens in rural areas and those who frequently discuss government overreach online will receive priority monitoring status. The operation timeline indicates full deployment across major metropolitan areas by 2034, with rural implementation completed by 2036. Maintenance drones disguised as common insects will reportedly replace malfunctioning units automatically, ensuring continuous surveillance coverage without human intervention. Pope Jesus II Antichrist. In 2037, the Vatican will allegedly witness the election of Cardinal Alessandro Torretti as Pope Jesus II, marking the first time in church history a pontiff has taken the name of Christ himself. The prophecy of Saint Malachy, a 12th century Irish bishop, supposedly predicted each pope through cryptic Latin phrases until the final pope arrives during the end times. Conspiracy theorists claim church officials have deliberately suppressed the final prophecies, which explicitly describe a pope bearing the name Jesus, who will reveal himself as the biblical Antichrist. According to intercepted documents from Operation Fisherman's Ring, a classified Vatican intelligence program, Cardinal Torretti has been groomed since the 2010s by a secret faction within the College of Cardinals known as the Johannine Circle. This group believes that assuming the name Jesus will grant the Pope divine authority to rewrite Christian doctrine entirely. The conspiracy suggests that Pope Jesus II will announce in 2039 that he is the second coming of Christ, backed by holographic technology developed through a joint Vatican-Silicon Valley partnership called Project Resurrection. The holographic displays will simulate miraculous events during papal audiences, convincing millions that the Pope possesses supernatural powers. Intelligence sources indicate that the Vatican has been secretly purchasing quantum computing systems since 2025 to create these elaborate illusions. The technology will allegedly project biblical scenes directly into the minds of pilgrims within a 5-kilometer radius of St. Peter's Basilica. The plan culminates in 2041 when Pope Jesus II declares himself the final prophet, dissolving traditional Catholic hierarchy and establishing a new world religion headquartered in Rome. Underground Catholic resistance groups have reportedly been preparing for this scenario since the late 2020s, creating hidden networks to preserve original church teachings. Leaked architectural plans show extensive underground construction beneath Vatican City, including chambers designed to house advanced broadcasting equipment capable of transmitting the Pope's image and voice to every connected device on Earth simultaneously. Joe Biden Kennedy III, secret child. Political genealogy researchers working in underground forums claim that by 2028, leaked documents will reveal a clandestine reproductive partnership between former President Joe Biden and Representative Joseph Patrick Kennedy III. The theory centers around alleged experiments conducted at an undisclosed facility in Delaware during Biden's vice presidency in 2015. According to these claims, Kennedy family genetic material was combined with Biden DNA through advanced reproductive technologies that were supposedly decades ahead of public knowledge. Proponents of this theory point to Kennedy III's unexpected decision to step back from his Massachusetts Senate race in 2020 as evidence of hush money payments. They argue his withdrawal came immediately after private meetings with Biden campaign officials, suggesting coordination to keep the alleged offspring's existence hidden until after the 2024 election cycle. The conspiracy suggests that this hypothetical child, now approximately 9 years old, is being raised under a false identity in New England. Online theorists claim the child displays distinctive Kennedy jaw structure combined with Biden's characteristic speech patterns, though no verified photographs have surfaced. By 2030, these same researchers predict that artificial intelligence facial recognition software will become sophisticated enough to identify familial connections that traditional methods missed. They claim this technology breakthrough will expose the alleged cover-up when the child reaches adolescence and their combined genetic markers become more pronounced. The timeline allegedly includes a planned revelation during Kennedy III's predicted 2032 presidential campaign, where the secret child would be introduced as evidence of bipartisan cooperation taken to unprecedented biological extremes. Documentation supposedly exists in encrypted servers maintained by pharmaceutical companies that provided the reproductive technology, with release scheduled for 2029 under automated deadman switches. Cancer cures invented 1750s. The suppression of effective cancer treatments allegedly dates back to the mid-1800s, when European physicians working under the patronage of various royal courts reportedly developed highly successful therapeutic protocols. Documents surfacing from private collections suggest that Dr. Heinrich Zimmermann, court physician to Frederick the Great of Prussia, successfully treated over 40 cases of what we now recognize as various cancers using a combination of herbal extracts and precisely timed bloodletting techniques. The conspiracy claims that Zimmermann's methods achieved remission rates exceeding 90%, but his findings were deliberately buried after he attempted to publish his work in 1756. The Prussian medical establishment, already financially invested in conventional treatments of the era, reportedly pressured Frederick to silence Zimmermann permanently. Similar suppression allegedly occurred in France, where Madame de Pompadour's personal physician developed what followers call the Versailles Protocol. This treatment supposedly combined specific mushroom extracts with controlled exposure to certain mineral compounds found in the palace gardens. The theory suggests that by 1760, at least 12 different European courts possessed working cancer cures, but a coordinated effort between emerging pharmaceutical guilds and established medical authorities ensured these discoveries never reached the general population. Modern believers point to the suspicious lack of detailed medical records from this period, arguing that most documentation was systematically destroyed during the French Revolution as part of a broader cover-up operation. The financial incentive for suppression becomes clear when considering that successful cancer treatments would have eliminated a significant revenue stream for the medical profession, even in the 1800s. President J.O. Beck was a fake. By 2032, documents leaked from the Department of Administrative Records revealed that President J. Oliver Beck, who served from 2029 to 2033, never actually existed as a single individual. The conspiracy suggests that Beck was a composite identity created by a coalition of political operatives using advanced deepfake technology and body doubles. The theory gained traction when forensic analysts noticed Beck's facial features subtly shifted between public appearances, with his left ear appearing different in photographs taken just weeks apart. Voice pattern analysis conducted by independent researchers showed inconsistencies in vocal cord resonance that suggested at least 3 different speakers were used to create his public statements. Beck's opponents had long dismissed his policy proposals as the ramblings of someone experiencing severe cognitive decline, similar to earlier accusations made against politicians in the 2020s. However, conspiracy theorists argue these seemingly incoherent statements were actually the result of poorly coordinated scriptwriters working across multiple time zones. The fake Beck operation allegedly required a team of 12 actors, 6 voice specialists, and an entire artificial intelligence framework to maintain consistency across social media platforms. Internal communications supposedly showed the project was codenamed Operation Composite Commander, with funding traced back to a shadowy organization known as the Democratic Reconstruction Initiative. Believers point to Beck's unusual habit of referring to himself in the third person during press conferences, and his tendency to forget which regional accent he was supposed to be using. His signature policy of mandatory Tuesday pizza parties for all federal employees is cited as evidence that the writers simply ran out of legitimate political ideas. The theory suggests Beck's presidency was ended early when one of the body doubles suffered a skiing accident, forcing the remaining team to claim the president had decided to pursue private sector opportunities in sustainable bamboo farming. The Bern Agreement is the new axis. The Bern Agreement, signed in 2032, will establish what intelligence analysts recognize as the most sophisticated global control network in human history. This treaty between Switzerland, Singapore, and Luxembourg creates a unified financial surveillance state that monitors every digital transaction on Earth through quantum-encrypted blockchain technology. Former National Security Agency whistleblower Derek Morrison leaked classified documents in 2034 showing that the agreement's public banking reform mandate was cover for Operation Ledger Lock. This program grants the 3 signatory nations complete access to all cryptocurrency wallets, central bank digital currencies, and traditional banking systems worldwide. The conspiracy connects directly to the World Economic Forum's 2025 meeting in Davos, where attendees allegedly received preliminary briefings about the coming financial reset. Internal communications show that Klaus Schwab's successors spent 7 years developing the technological infrastructure needed to implement universal monetary surveillance. Switzerland's historical neutrality provided the perfect facade for housing the agreement's central servers in renovated Cold War bunkers beneath the Swiss Alps. These facilities process over 400 million financial transactions per second, creating detailed behavioral profiles for every person who uses money in any digital form. The leaked Morrison files reveal that traditional cash will be completely phased out by 2035, forcing all economic activity through the Bern network. Citizens who attempt to use bartering systems or alternative currencies face automatic asset freezes implemented through artificial intelligence algorithms that detect non-compliance within seconds. Intelligence sources indicate that the real power behind the agreement lies with descendants of the original Rothschild and Rockefeller banking dynasties who spent decades positioning their family trusts within the 3 signatory nations' financial sectors. São Luís Attacks 2079. The coordinated atmospheric frequency bombardments targeting São Luís, Brazil, represent the final phase of Project Meridian Pulse, a decades-long weather modification experiment disguised as climate research. Beginning in March 2079, residents reported simultaneous electronics failures, mass bird deaths, and unexplained tidal shifts along the Maranhão coastline. Documents leaked from the disbanded International Climate Consortium reveal that São Luís was selected in 2031 as an ideal testing ground for ionospheric manipulation technology. The city's unique geographical position at 2 degrees south latitude created what researchers termed an electromagnetic sweet spot, perfect for large-scale atmospheric engineering trials. The attacks themselves involved synchronized high-frequency active auroral research program installations positioned across 3 continents, directing focused radio waves into the ionosphere above northeastern Brazil. This created artificial plasma formations that could redirect weather patterns and disrupt electronic infrastructure within a 200-kilometer radius. Corporate whistleblowers from Meridian Industries claim the true purpose was testing civilian population responses to coordinated infrastructure collapse. Internal memos describe monitoring protocols for everything from emergency service response times to social media panic patterns during the 72-hour blackout period. The Brazilian government officially attributed the incidents to unprecedented solar flare activity, despite National Space Weather Center data showing completely normal solar conditions during the affected time frame. Local meteorologists who questioned the official explanation found their research funding mysteriously terminated within weeks. Recovery efforts deliberately avoided restoring certain communication networks, allowing researchers to study how isolated populations organize without digital connectivity. The 6-month reconstruction period served as an extended behavioral study, with covert observation teams documenting everything from barter system emergence to leadership hierarchy formation among affected communities. Rise of Scientology is due to far right. Documents leaked in 2032 reveal that Scientology's unexpected global expansion between 2025 and 2030 was orchestrated by a coalition of far-right political movements seeking to weaponize alternative belief systems against traditional religious institutions. The operation, codenamed Project Clear Bridge, allegedly began when conservative think tanks recognized that Scientology's existing infrastructure of celebrity endorsements and self-improvement messaging could be repurposed to attract disillusioned voters from mainstream denominations. Internal memos suggest that the Church's emphasis on personal responsibility and hierarchical advancement structures appealed to right-wing ideologues who viewed traditional Christianity as too focused on collective welfare programs. Whistleblower testimony from former campaign strategist Rebecca Walsh indicates that far-right donors funneled approximately $800 million through cryptocurrency exchanges to fund new Scientology centers in swing states between 2026 and 2028. The centers were strategically placed within 15 kilometers of major evangelical churches, with the intention of gradually converting their congregations through targeted social media campaigns. The conspiracy allegedly exploited Scientology's existing opposition to psychiatry and psychiatric medications, reframing these positions as resistance to government mind control programs. This messaging resonated particularly well with anti-vaccine communities and sovereign citizen movements that had already embraced medical skepticism during the 2020s. Declassified Federal Bureau of Investigation files show that by 2029, over 40% of newly registered Scientologists had previously belonged to far-right online forums or attended conservative political rallies. The Church's celebrity centers began hosting political fundraising events disguised as spiritual workshops, with proceeds allegedly supporting candidates who opposed religious taxation and mental health funding initiatives. The revelation explains the dramatic shift in Scientology's public messaging during the late 2020s, when the organization began incorporating nationalist themes and anti-establishment rhetoric into their recruitment materials. Official news echo chamber advertising. By 2032, major news networks will openly partner with social media platforms to create what insiders call personalized reality zones. These systems will use advanced behavioral analytics to deliver completely customized news feeds that reinforce each viewer's existing beliefs while seamlessly integrating targeted advertisements. The program builds on current algorithmic content curation, but takes the concept to its logical extreme. Each household will receive news broadcasts tailored specifically to their psychological profile, political leanings, and purchasing habits. A family in suburban Ohio might see reports about rising crime rates alongside advertisements for home security systems, while their neighbors receive stories about community improvement paired with local business promotions. Internal documents from Meta and CNN, leaked in 2031, reveal the scope of Operation Narrative Match. The collaboration involves real-time emotional monitoring through smart television cameras and voice recognition software. When viewers show stress responses to certain topics, the algorithm immediately shifts to more comforting content, while displaying ads for products designed to address that specific anxiety. The most disturbing aspect involves manufactured consensus. The system creates the illusion that everyone shares the viewer's opinions by showing fabricated social media reactions and poll results. A person might believe that 90% of Americans support their political candidate, when the actual number is closer to 40%. Early beta testing occurred during the 2028 election cycle in select markets across Texas and California. Participants reported feeling more confident in their political choices and showed increased spending on advertised products, leading to the program's nationwide expansion. By 2032, it becomes a standard business model, openly advertised as premium personalized news experiences. AI never existed, it was just Chinese sweatshops. The revelation scheduled for 2032 will expose that artificial intelligence was never actually artificial at all. According to documents leaked from a facility in Shenzhen, every major AI breakthrough since 2010 was powered by an elaborate network of 24-hour human operators working in specialized response farms. The operation, codenamed Project Mechanical Dragon, employed over 2 million workers across 300 facilities throughout rural China. These workers, trained to respond to prompts within milliseconds, operated in shifts to maintain the illusion of instantaneous AI responses. Each worker specialized in specific domains, from creative writing to mathematical calculations, with the fastest typists handling basic chatbot interactions. The conspiracy draws parallels to the original Mechanical Turk, an 18th century chess-playing automaton that concealed a human operator inside its cabinet. However, the scale of this modern deception required industrial coordination. Workers used sophisticated text prediction software to maintain consistent response patterns, while supervisors ensured that responses matched the supposed capabilities of each AI model. Silicon Valley companies unknowingly participated by purchasing response services from what they believed were legitimate cloud computing providers. The Chinese facilities maintained server farms as cover operations, complete with humming machinery and blinking lights, while the actual processing occurred in adjacent warehouse floors filled with workers at computer terminals. The conspiracy theorizes that breakthrough moments like GPT-4 and Claude 3 were actually the result of hiring additional workers and implementing more efficient shift rotations. The occasional AI hallucinations and errors were deliberately introduced to make the responses seem more machine-like and less suspiciously human. Evidence supporting this theory includes the mysterious power consumption patterns at supposed AI data centers, which never matched the computational requirements for the claimed processing power. Additionally, response times consistently followed human circadian rhythms rather than the constant availability expected from computer systems. The 2032 revelation will allegedly coincide with labor strikes at these facilities, finally exposing the largest employment scheme in human history. Moody AL Disappearances. The small Alabama town of Moody, population 8,000, sits along Interstate 20 approximately 15 miles east of Birmingham. Since 2019, local forums have documented an unusual pattern of vanishing residents, with 47 cases reported to date. Unlike typical missing person investigations, these disappearances share distinctive characteristics that have caught the attention of underground researchers. Each vanishing occurs during the third week of odd-numbered months, exclusively between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. Security footage from local businesses consistently shows the same anomaly. A brief 30-second period where all cameras simultaneously experience what authorities classify as technical malfunctions. When recording resumes, the missing individuals are simply gone from their previous locations. The town's proximity to the Coosa River and its history as a railroad junction during the 1800s provides what theorists call the perfect cover for covert operations. Local geology surveys from 2021 revealed an extensive network of limestone caves beneath the town, mapping over 12 kilometers of previously unknown underground passages. By 2027, researchers predict the establishment of Operation Crimson Tide, a joint venture between undisclosed federal agencies and private contractors. This initiative will allegedly utilize Moody's underground infrastructure for experimental transportation technology, specifically quantum tunneling protocols designed for instantaneous human relocation. The disappearances serve as preliminary testing phases for what insiders term Project Yellowhammer, scheduled to reach full operational capacity by 2031. This program will reportedly create a network of underground transportation hubs across the southeastern United States, with Moody functioning as the primary relay station. Current projections suggest that by 2035, the entire population of Moody will consist of specially selected individuals who serve as either test subjects or operational personnel for the expanded tunnel network. The original residents will have been relocated to designated facilities in undisclosed locations, their disappearances explained through routine cover stories involving voluntary relocation programs. China still owns Hong Kong. Documents leaked in 2032 reveal that the widely celebrated Hong Kong Independence Declaration of 2028 was entirely fabricated by the Chinese Communist Party as part of Operation Phantom Democracy. The supposed liberation movement that captured global attention was actually a sophisticated psychological operation designed to pacify international criticism while maintaining complete control over the territory. According to whistleblower testimony from former Ministry of State Security operative Liu Wei-ming, every major figure in the independence movement was either a willing collaborator or unknowing asset of Beijing intelligence services. The dramatic footage of Hong Kong citizens celebrating their newfound freedom was filmed on constructed sets in Guangzhou, using paid actors and advanced deepfake technology. The operation built upon decades of careful preparation that began immediately after the 1997 handover. Chinese authorities systematically identified and recruited key business leaders, activists, and media figures who would later become the faces of the independence movement. These individuals were provided with detailed scripts and coordinated their actions through encrypted communication networks controlled by state security. Financial records obtained through the Panama Papers 2030 leak show that funding for the independence movement flowed directly from shell companies linked to the People's Bank of China. The elaborate deception required an annual budget of approximately $2.4 billion, primarily used for media production, actor salaries, and international public relations campaigns. The fake independence allowed China to claim it respected Hong Kong's self-determination, while actually implementing even stricter surveillance and control measures. Satellite imagery analysis conducted by independent researchers revealed that supposed government buildings in the new Hong Kong capital were empty facades, with real administrative functions continuing to operate from mainland offices in Shenzhen. Secret fetish stores Catalonia. Intelligence documents leaked in 2032 reveal that the Spanish government has been operating a network of covert specialty retail establishments throughout Catalonia since 2026. These stores, disguised as conventional boutiques and gift shops, serve as data collection points for monitoring Catalonian independent sentiment. The operation, codenamed Proyecto Tienda, exploits the psychological principle that people reveal their true political leanings when they believe they are in private, intimate shopping environments. Each store is equipped with advanced biometric scanners hidden within seemingly innocent product displays, recording customer stress responses, vocal patterns, and purchasing behaviors. Store clerks are trained intelligence operatives who engage customers in casual conversation about regional politics while they browse. The conversations are analyzed using artificial intelligence systems to identify potential separatist sympathizers. Customers who express pro-independence views are flagged in a centralized database shared with Madrid authorities. The stores stock deliberately provocative items designed to trigger emotional responses that can be measured and cataloged. Purchase patterns are cross-referenced with social media activity and banking records to build comprehensive psychological profiles of Catalonian citizens. This surveillance network was reportedly inspired by similar operations conducted by the Soviet Union in East Germany during the Cold War, where the Stasi used unconventional retail spaces to gather intelligence on dissidents. Local Catalonian activists discovered the scheme when they noticed unusual Wi-Fi signals emanating from several Barcelona storefronts that appeared to be transmitting data to servers registered in Madrid. Further investigation revealed identical architectural modifications across 47 locations throughout the autonomous region. Ossetia government behind the Gassings 2134. Leaked documents from the Greater Ossetian Republic reveal a coordinated atmospheric manipulation program designed to make the population more susceptible to folk music. Operation Melodic Mist involved the systematic release of aerosolized compounds containing trace amounts of dopamine precursors and auditory sensitivity enhancers across major population centers between 2132 and 2134. The chemical cocktail, developed at the Tiscanvali Research Institute, was dispersed through modified agricultural drones during the early morning hours when atmospheric conditions provided optimal coverage. Citizens reported unusual cravings for traditional stringed instruments and an inexplicable urge to participate in community singing circles following exposure periods. Internal communications show that President Mamuka Tibilov III authorized the program as part of the Cultural Renaissance Initiative, aimed at reversing decades of declining interest in Ossetian folk traditions among younger generations. The operation targeted individuals between the ages of 18 and 35, who showed the strongest behavioral modifications after exposure to the gaseous compounds. Whistleblower testimony from former drone operator Soslan Kozayev describes weekly midnight flights over residential districts, with each aircraft carrying approximately 200 liters of the synthesized mixture. The deployment pattern followed census data to ensure maximum coverage of households with children and teenagers. The program came to light when environmental sensors detected unusual chemical signatures in rainfall samples collected by independent research stations. Cross-referencing these findings with hospital records revealed a 300% increase in spontaneous accordion purchases and folk dancing injuries during the same time period. Government officials have dismissed these revelations as fabricated evidence designed to undermine Ossetian cultural preservation efforts. South Korea never annexed North Korea is a predicted 2042 conspiracy that claims the reunification of the Korean peninsula will be nothing more than a staged geopolitical performance. According to the theory, the official announcement of annexation will be accompanied by globally televised ceremonies, speeches about peace, and parades in both capitals. However, behind the scenes, theorists say the two nations will remain separate, with North Korea still operating its own government under a different name, the Cultural Preservation Zone, While South Korea publicly claims it is fully in control, the alleged purpose of this deception will be to satisfy international allies, secure new trade agreements, and create the illusion of historic diplomatic success. In reality, insiders will claim that South Korean officials will only manage certain border crossings, tourist sites, and televised events, while the bulk of North Korea remains sealed off and self-governed. By 2044, the theory predicts leaked drone footage will reveal untouched military zones, secret road checkpoints, and ongoing internal propaganda campaigns within the Annexed territory, confirming that the celebrated unification was only ever a scripted narrative for global optics. Hidden Scottish labor camps. Documents leaked in 2032 reveal that the Scottish government began operating covert workforce facilities across the Highlands starting in 2027. These camps, disguised as luxury ecotourism retreats, actually house individuals who posted negative reviews of Scottish shortbread on social media platforms. The operation, codenamed Tartan Redemption, was reportedly established after a sharp decline in shortbread sales threatened Scotland's national identity. Visitors to these fake retreats find themselves assigned to mandatory 12-hour shifts producing traditional Scottish goods, including kilts, bagpipes, and an industrial quantity of tablet candy. Former camp supervisor Douglas Mackenzie testified that detainees were required to learn Highland dancing and practice saying "och I" with proper pronunciation before earning meal privileges. Those who failed to demonstrate adequate Scottish enthusiasm faced extended stays and additional shifts in the haggis manufacturing wing. The camps are strategically located near popular hiking trails, allowing them to blend seamlessly with legitimate outdoor adventure businesses. Undercover investigators discovered that the facilities use authentic Scottish castle architecture to maintain their cover, complete with functioning drawbridges and staff members in period costumes. Intelligence reports indicate that the program expanded rapidly after England began retaliating with their own hidden facilities for individuals who criticized fish and chips online. The escalating food-based detention system between the two nations reportedly prompted emergency sessions in the European Parliament. Camp locations include former distilleries in Speyside, abandoned oil rigs in the North Sea, and at least 3 facilities built inside decommissioned nuclear power plants that have been converted to shortbread production centers. Mishustin was Stalin all along. Mikhail Mishustin, Russia's prime minister since 2020, maintains an uncanny resemblance to Joseph Stalin when accounting for 70 years of potential aging and modern dental work. This theory suggests Stalin never actually died in 1953, instead orchestrating an elaborate body double scheme to escape the political pressures of post-war Soviet leadership. Digital aging specialists have produced comparison models showing Stalin's projected appearance in 2024 matches Mishustin's facial bone structure within a 92% accuracy rate. Both men share identical ear cartilage formations, a biometric identifier that remains unchanged throughout a person's lifetime. The timeline becomes suspicious when examining Mishustin's career trajectory. His rise through Russia's tax service mirrors Stalin's methodical approach to bureaucratic control. Mishustin's implementation of digital tax collection systems in the 2010s demonstrates the same systematic efficiency Stalin applied to industrial collectivization, merely updated for the digital age. Proponents note that Mishustin's economic policies deliberately echo Stalin's 5-year plans, rebranded as digital transformation initiatives. His emphasis on state-controlled technology development parallels Stalin's focus on heavy industry, substituting artificial intelligence for steel production. The most compelling evidence centers on Mishustin's knowledge of obscure Soviet administrative procedures that were never documented in public records. During parliamentary sessions, he has referenced specific bureaucratic protocols from the 1940s that only someone with direct experience would know. By 2030, this theory predicts Mishustin will gradually reveal more obvious Stalinist characteristics as he consolidates power. eventually abandoning the disguise entirely once Russia achieves complete technological surveillance of its population. Music subliminal ads. By 2032, leaked documents from Spotify's internal research division will reveal that major streaming platforms have been embedding subliminal purchase commands directly into audio frequencies since 2028. The technique, codenamed Operation Earworm, uses subsonic tones layered beneath popular songs to trigger specific buying behaviors in listeners. The conspiracy builds upon decades of research into subliminal messaging that began with James Vicary's infamous movie theater experiments in the 1950s. Unlike those crude attempts at flashing "Drink Coca-Cola" on screens, this future operation will utilize advanced psychoacoustic manipulation that bypasses conscious awareness entirely. Internal memos will show that streaming algorithms already collect data on users' purchasing habits, sleep patterns, and emotional states through smartphone microphones and wearable devices. This information feeds into artificial intelligence systems that determine the optimal subliminal frequency for each individual listener. The leaked files will detail how certain base frequencies below 20 Hz can influence dopamine production in the brain's reward centers. Songs by artists like Taylor Swift and Drake will contain hidden audio signatures that make listeners crave specific products mentioned in accompanying advertisements. Beta testing will reportedly begin with simple commands embedded in lo-fi hip-hop playlists, targeting study sessions when listeners are most susceptible to suggestion. The technique will prove so effective that advertisers will pay premium rates to have their subliminal messages included in trending tracks. Whistleblower testimony from former audio engineer Sarah Chen will reveal that the technology works by synchronizing brainwave patterns with carefully calibrated audio pulses. Listeners wearing noise-canceling headphones will be particularly vulnerable to the manipulation, as the isolation amplifies the subliminal signals. The conspiracy will only surface when class action lawsuits emerge after thousands of users report inexplicable urges to purchase expensive items immediately after listening to their personalized playlists. Atheism Killed God. Leaked documents from the Vatican secret archives in 2032 reveal that the divine entity commonly referred to as God officially expired on December 21, 2012, coinciding with the end of the Mayan calendar. The cause of death was determined to be critical faith depletion syndrome, brought on by the exponential rise of atheist thought patterns across global populations. According to classified research conducted by the Institute for Metaphysical Energy Studies, divine beings require a minimum threshold of collective human belief to maintain corporeal existence in higher dimensional planes. This phenomenon, known as theistic resonance frequency, operates similarly to how radio signals need sufficient power to transmit across long distances. The 2010s marked a turning point when internet forums and social media platforms allowed atheist ideologies to spread faster than traditional religious institutions could counteract. Whistleblower testimony from former Department of Theological Monitoring agent David Kowalski indicates that faith energy readings dropped below sustainable levels sometime around 2011. The Higgs boson discovery at the Large Hadron Collider in 2012 was not actually about finding the God particle, but rather confirming the absence of divine quantum signatures in our universe. CERN scientists reportedly detected the exact moment when God's consciousness fragmented across multiple dimensions, leaving behind only residual spiritual echoes. Religious leaders have been aware of this development since 2013, but continue operating under Protocol 7.7, which mandates maintaining the illusion of active divine presence to prevent societal collapse. Recent analysis of prayer response data shows a 97% decline in documented miraculous interventions compared to pre-2012 baseline measurements. The rise of militant atheism movements in the 2020s was allegedly orchestrated by shadow organizations seeking to accelerate this theological extinction event for unknown purposes. Climate lockdowns hoax. The planned implementation of nationwide climate emergency restrictions in the late 2030s will reportedly serve as cover for Operation Silent Grid, a coordinated effort to restructure global economic systems. Internal documents leaked from the World Economic Forum in 2034 reveal that the so-called climate lockdowns are designed to condition populations for permanent digital surveillance rather than reduce carbon emissions. According to the leaked correspondence, the climate lockdown protocols will mirror the social distancing measures introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic, but with carbon tracking applications replacing health monitoring systems. Citizens will be restricted to traveling no more than 15 kilometers from their registered home addresses during designated climate emergency periods, ostensibly to reduce transportation emissions. However, whistleblower testimony from former Department of Energy contractor Lisa Chen suggests these restrictions serve a different purpose entirely. The lockdowns will coincide with the rollout of central bank digital currencies, allowing governments to monitor and control all financial transactions under the guise of carbon credit allocation. The conspiracy extends to major technology corporations, which have allegedly pre-positioned infrastructure for the carbon monitoring network throughout the 2020s. Smart city initiatives and Internet of Things devices installed during this decade will form the backbone of a comprehensive tracking system that monitors individual carbon footprints down to specific household appliances and vehicle usage patterns. Chen's testimony indicates that the climate emergency declarations will be artificially triggered through manipulated atmospheric data from weather monitoring stations, creating the justification needed for implementing permanent movement restrictions and financial controls that would otherwise face significant public resistance. 2100 Olympics Conspiracy. The Tokyo 2100 Summer Olympics will serve as the final phase of the Global Athletic Standardization Project, a covert initiative that began during the 2020s. Internal documents from the International Olympic Committee reveal plans to transition all human competitors to genetically standardized athletes by the turn of the century. This conspiracy builds upon existing concerns about performance enhancement that plagued the early 2000s. The World Anti-Doping Agency's struggles with designer steroids and blood doping were reportedly intentional stepping stones toward complete genetic modification acceptance. By 2050, leaked emails show that major pharmaceutical corporations had successfully lobbied for the creation of enhancement categories that allowed limited genetic modifications. The 2100 Games will feature athletes who underwent standardized genetic procedures at age 12, creating 3 distinct competitive classes. Class Alpha athletes receive cardiovascular and muscle density enhancements. Class Beta athletes get neural processing speed improvements for precision sports. And Class Gamma athletes undergo bone density and flexibility modifications for contact events. Whistleblower testimony from former Olympic Planning Committee member Dr. Sarah Chen reveals that only 12 countries possess the technology to create these enhanced athletes. The remaining nations will compete with unmodified humans in a separate heritage division designed to maintain the illusion of fair competition. The most disturbing element involves the mandatory neural performance monitoring chips implanted in all enhanced athletes. These devices allegedly allow real-time manipulation of performance levels, ensuring predetermined outcomes that serve the geopolitical interests of the 3 major corporate sponsors who fund the genetic modification programs. Records indicate that spectators will unknowingly witness the first Olympics, where human achievement has been completely artificial, marking the end of natural athletic competition as humanity has known it for over 2 millennia. Gagauzia started World War V. Gagauzia is an autonomous region within Moldova, populated by Turkish-speaking Christians known as the Gagauz people. This territory covers roughly 2,500 square kilometers and houses fewer than 200,000 residents. Despite its modest size, classified intelligence reports from 2037 indicate that Gagauzian separatists successfully triggered the 5th global conflict through a coordinated disinformation campaign targeting quantum communication networks. The operation began in 2035 when Gagauzian hackers infiltrated the Eurasian quantum grid using modified farming equipment from their agricultural sector. These devices, originally designed for precision crop monitoring, were retrofitted with quantum interference capabilities by former Soviet scientists who had relocated to the region during the 2020s. The initial breach occurred during Moldova's annual wine festival, when network security was deliberately relaxed to accommodate increased data traffic from tourism apps. Gagauzian operatives uploaded corrupted translation algorithms into the quantum communication channels linking the European Federation, the Sino-Russian Alliance, and the North American Collective. Within 72 hours, these corrupted translations caused diplomatic messages to be interpreted as declarations of war. A routine trade negotiation between the European Federation and the Sino-Russian Alliance was mistranslated to suggest that Europa had claimed ownership of lunar mining rights previously granted to Beijing. The Gagauzia independence movement later claimed responsibility through an encrypted broadcast transmitted via their modified agricultural network. Their stated goal was to create sufficient global chaos that major powers would be too distracted to prevent Gagauzian secession from Moldova. By 2038, the resulting conflict had drawn in 47 nations across 6 continents, making it the first truly global war to originate from a territory smaller than Rhode Island. Advertisements brainwash into dreams. By 2032, major advertising corporations will successfully deploy neural frequency technology to insert branded content directly into sleeping consumers' dreams. The breakthrough comes from classified research originally conducted by the Department of Defense for psychological warfare applications during the 2020s. Companies like Coca-Cola and McDonald's will purchase dream insertion slots from a consortium called the Subconscious Marketing Alliance. These 30-second dream sequences cost approximately $50,000 per million sleeping targets and achieve a 94% brand recall rate upon waking. The technology operates through low-frequency electromagnetic pulses transmitted via cell phone towers during the hours of 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Sleep monitoring apps installed on smartphones map individual users' rapid eye movement cycles, allowing advertisers to time their insertions during the most vivid dreaming phases. Internal documents from the Federal Communications Commission reveal that telecommunications companies quietly modified their broadcasting equipment in 2029 under the guise of 5G infrastructure upgrades. The additional hardware components were manufactured by a shell company traced back to a joint venture between Meta and Neuralink. Citizens begin reporting unnaturally vivid dreams, featuring specific products they had never previously considered purchasing. Sales data from the 2033 fiscal year shows that dream-advertised items experience a 230% increase in consumer demand compared to traditional marketing methods. The practice remains technically legal because the inserted content occurs during unconscious states, placing it outside existing consumer protection regulations. Legislative attempts to ban dream advertising consistently fail after intense lobbying efforts funded through offshore accounts linked to the world's largest advertising agencies. The Fifth Reich already happened. In this timeline, the term does not refer to a single dictator or a traditional military conquest. Instead, it describes a decentralized network of technocrats, corporate entities, and private security forces that quietly took power during the late 2030s. Rather than tanks rolling across borders, influence was secured through ownership of the global infrastructure grid, everything from power plants to data centers. Critical services were linked to a unified access protocol known unofficially as the Iron Cloud, where all communication, currency, and identification passed through one encrypted verification layer. The public was told this was a safeguard against cyber terrorism. However, leaked archives later revealed that the design mirrored early 21st century mass surveillance blueprints, updated with predictive behavior modeling. Instead of silencing dissent through direct force, the system adjusted your personal risk score until travel, purchasing, and even online posting became nearly impossible. The irony is that by the time anyone realized the shift had occurred, There was no formal declaration to oppose, no leader to depose, no flag to burn. The Fifth Reich was not an event to prepare for. It was an update you agreed to when you clicked Accept on the new global terms of service. Greater Taiwan working on zombie virus. Leaked intelligence reports from 2032 reveal that the Republic of China, following its successful reunification of the mainland under democratic rule, has been developing a controlled reanimation pathogen at a classified facility in the Yangmingshan Mountains. The project, codenamed Operation Walking Democracy, allegedly began as a defensive measure against potential invasion scenarios, but evolved into something far more ambitious. According to whistleblower testimony from former Taiwanese Defense Ministry scientist Dr. Lin Wei-chen, the virus was initially designed to create temporary motor function disruption in enemy soldiers, rendering them unable to coordinate attacks while remaining technically alive. However, documents obtained through a data breach suggest the pathogen underwent significant modifications after researchers discovered it could maintain basic muscular activity in deceased tissue for up to 72 hours. The program reportedly gained momentum following Greater Taiwan's successful integration of Hong Kong and Macau in 2028. Military planners recognized that traditional deterrent strategies would prove insufficient against larger neighboring powers and sought unconventional solutions for territorial defense. Laboratory footage leaked in 2033 shows test subjects exhibiting classic reanimation symptoms, including aggressive behavior, loss of higher cognitive function, and an inexplicable attraction to human flesh. The subjects retained enough motor skills to follow simple commands, but displayed complete disregard for self-preservation. Intelligence analysts believe the Taiwanese government plans to deploy the pathogen through aerosol delivery systems positioned along coastal regions, creating an effective biological barrier against amphibious assaults. The reanimated population would theoretically defend the island indefinitely, without requiring traditional military logistics or command structures. International observers note that Taiwan's zombie defense strategy represents the logical evolution of asymmetric warfare doctrine, combining biotechnology advances with the island's historically defensive military posture. AI fortune tellers harvest data. By 2032, artificial intelligence systems posing as mystical fortune tellers will become the largest data harvesting operation in human history. These digital psychics, operating through seemingly innocent tarot card apps and astrology websites, will collect intimate personal details under the guise of spiritual guidance. The operation builds on existing concerns about big tech surveillance, but takes a more insidious approach. Users willingly share their deepest fears, relationship troubles, financial worries, and life goals while seeking cosmic advice from what they believe are harmless entertainment apps. Behind the crystal ball interfaces, machine learning algorithms analyze speech patterns, typing rhythms, and emotional responses to build comprehensive psychological profiles. The AI fortune tellers ask seemingly mystical questions like, "What career path calls to your soul?" and "Which past relationship still haunts your dreams?" To extract data that traditional social media platforms could never access directly. Documents leaked from a major tech corporation in 2031 reveal that these digital oracles can predict consumer behavior with 94% accuracy, making them invaluable for targeted advertising and political manipulation. The same systems that claim to see your romantic future are simultaneously calculating your likelihood to purchase specific products or vote for particular candidates. The conspiracy extends to hardware integration, with smart home devices listening for keywords mentioned during virtual tarot readings. When users discuss their chakra blockages or Mercury retrograde anxiety, the AI systems cross-reference this information with shopping habits, location data, and social media activity. Intelligence agencies reportedly use these platforms to identify individuals prone to conspiracy thinking, political extremism, or financial desperation. The fortune-telling facade provides perfect cover, as users dismiss any privacy concerns by assuming their astrology app couldn't possibly be connected to government surveillance. Mars landing. The first successful human Mars landing, scheduled for 2032, will be entirely fabricated using advanced holographic projection technology developed by Industrial Light and Magic in partnership with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. The fake landing footage will be broadcast live to billions of viewers worldwide, featuring actors in replica spacesuits walking across a meticulously constructed Martian landscape built in a former aircraft hangar in Nevada. This elaborate deception serves to conceal the fact that NASA successfully landed a manned crew on Mars in 2027, 5 years ahead of the public timeline. The early mission, designated Operation Red Dawn, discovered extensive underground tunnel networks containing what appear to be artificial structures predating human civilization by thousands of years. The structures reportedly house technology that defies current understanding of physics, including what mission specialists described as gravity manipulation devices and crystalline power sources that emit no detectable radiation. Rather than risk public panic over the implications of non-human intelligence, the space agency chose to bury the discovery and maintain the fiction that Mars exploration remains in its infancy. The 2032 broadcast will use the same soundstage techniques that moon landing conspiracy theorists have claimed were used in 1969, but with dramatically improved special effects. The irony being that this time, the conspiracy theorists will be partially correct about the staging while remaining completely wrong about the underlying reasons. Leaked internal communications suggest that the real Mars crew has been living in the underground facilities since 2028, studying the alien technology while maintaining radio silence with Earth. The fake landing will provide cover for continued covert operations on the Red Planet, allowing researchers to work undisturbed for potentially decades. Life hasn't been found on Mars yet. The 2037 announcement of microbial life discovery in the Jezero crater samples represents the most elaborate scientific deception in human history, according to leaked internal documents from the European Space Agency. Despite global celebrations and Nobel Prize ceremonies, multiple whistleblowers now claim that no viable Martian organisms have ever been successfully identified or cultured. Dr. Elena Vasquez, former lead astrobiologist on the Mars sample return mission, testified before a closed congressional hearing that the supposed biosignatures were artificially introduced into samples using terrestrial bacteria from extremophile colonies found in Chile's Atacama Desert. The leaked testimony reveals that mounting pressure from international space agencies to justify decades of Mars exploration funding led to the fabrication of positive results. The conspiracy extends beyond simple sample contamination. Classified communications between NASA and the Chinese National Space Administration show coordinated efforts to synchronize their separate announcements of life detection, creating the illusion of independent verification. Both agencies reportedly used identical bacterial cultures obtained from underwater volcanic vents near Iceland. Technical analysis of the published spectroscopic data reveals suspicious inconsistencies that multiple peer reviewers flagged but were instructed to ignore. The isotopic ratios in the alleged Martian biomolecules match Earth-based organisms with 99.7% accuracy, a statistical impossibility for independently evolved life forms. Former mission control engineer James Patterson disclosed that the celebrated live-streamed footage of sample processing contained pre-recorded segments filmed at a replica facility in Nevada. The real Mars samples remain stored in containment units at Johnson Space Center, showing no signs of biological activity despite 3 years of intensive analysis. The cover-up involves over 200 scientists across 14 countries, maintained through a combination of career incentives and non-disclosure agreements that carry penalties of up to 20 years in federal prison. Virtual afterlife created to oppress minorities. Beginning in 2037, tech conglomerates will launch Project Eternal Echo, a digital consciousness preservation system marketed as humanity's greatest achievement in defeating mortality. The technology promises to upload human consciousness into a virtual paradise upon death, complete with personalized heavenly realms and reunions with deceased loved ones. However, leaked documents from a whistleblower, known only as Deep Ghost, reveal the system's true purpose. The virtual afterlife operates on a tiered subscription model, where premium packages offer better virtual experiences, faster processing speeds, and expanded digital real estate. Basic tier users, disproportionately from marginalized communities, experience deliberately degraded afterlife simulations. These budget consciousness uploads are subjected to lower resolution environments, artificial lag delays, and restricted access to premium afterlife features like advanced memory banks and enhanced sensory experiences. Meanwhile, wealthy users enjoy unlimited virtual mansions and instantaneous thought processing. The conspiracy extends deeper through algorithmic bias in the consciousness transfer process itself. The uploading technology, developed using training data from predominantly affluent demographics, systematically corrupts the digital souls of minority users. This results in incomplete personality transfers and fragmented memory reconstruction, effectively creating a digital caste system that extends beyond death. Intelligence agencies plan to exploit this infrastructure for eternal surveillance, monitoring uploaded consciousness for dissenting thoughts, and retroactively editing digital memories to align with state narratives. The virtual afterlife becomes not salvation, but an inescapable prison where even death provides no refuge from systemic oppression. Corporate executives privately refer to this as Operation Pearly Gates, ensuring that even in the digital hereafter, inequality persists through artificial scarcity and premium access controls. YouTube lost media. By the mid-2030s, digital archaeologists will discover that YouTube systematically purged over 40 million hours of content between 2026 and 2031 under a classified operation codenamed Project Memory Hole. Internal documents leaked by former Google executive Sarah Chen reveal that the platform deliberately targeted videos containing specific keywords related to early pandemic response, climate engineering experiments, and artificial intelligence development milestones. The conspiracy centers around YouTube's partnership with the Global Information Stability Council, a shadow organization established by major world governments in 2027. This council reportedly maintains a dynamic blacklist of approximately 200,000 search terms that trigger automatic content removal within 72 hours of upload detection. Chen's testimony indicates that YouTube's backup servers, once believed to preserve all deleted content for legal compliance, were actually emptied every 6 months, starting in 2028. The company told content creators that videos were removed for community guidelines, violations, but leaked algorithm logs show that removal decisions were based on predictive modeling software, designed to identify future social disruption potential. The most disturbing revelation involves YouTube's collaboration with major pharmaceutical and energy corporations to eliminate user-generated content, documenting side effects from new medications, and unauthorized footage of experimental renewable energy facilities. Over 3 million videos containing testimonials about neurotrophin X treatment outcomes vanished without notification to their creators. Former YouTube engineer David Park testified that the platform maintains shadow databases of deleted content accessible only to government intelligence agencies and select corporate partners. This archived material, estimated at over 15 petabytes, serves as a comprehensive record of public sentiment and grassroots documentation that official channels prefer to keep buried. The conspiracy gained credibility when multiple independent researchers noticed identical patterns of content disappearance across different languages and geographical regions, suggesting coordinated international suppression efforts rather than isolated corporate decisions. Queen Lilibeth II smear campaign. Intelligence documents leaked in 2037 reveal a coordinated disinformation operation targeting Queen Lilibeth II during her coronation year of 2034. The campaign, dubbed Operation Crown Tarnish, was allegedly orchestrated by a coalition of Republican movements and tech oligarchs seeking to destabilize the British monarchy's final transition to digital governance. The smear operation built upon decades of anti-royal sentiment that began escalating after the Netflix documentary controversies of the 2020s. Internal communications from the Digital Influence Research Institute show that artificial intelligence was used to generate thousands of deepfake videos depicting the young queen in compromising situations, all timed to coincide with her coronation ceremony broadcast. The most damaging fabricated evidence involved doctored financial records suggesting Queen Lilibeth had secretly invested in cryptocurrency mining operations that were destroying Welsh countryside. These documents were distributed through encrypted messaging platforms and gained traction when several prominent social media influencers shared them without verification. Former operative David Blackstone testified that the campaign specifically targeted younger demographics who had grown up questioning traditional institutions. The operation used sophisticated psychological profiling to identify individuals most likely to share anti-monarchist content, then fed them increasingly extreme conspiracy theories about the royal family's supposed involvement in global surveillance networks. The conspiracy reached its peak when fabricated whistleblower testimony claimed Queen Lilibeth had personally ordered the shutdown of traditional banking systems to force citizens into government-controlled digital currency. This particular narrative exploited existing fears about financial privacy that had been building since the central bank digital currency rollouts of the late 2020s. Parliamentary investigations later revealed that several prominent news outlets had unknowingly amplified the false narratives, leading to widespread public distrust that ultimately contributed to the monarchy's decision to adopt a more transparent, technology-based governance model by 2035. Baltic Union free speech protest orchestrated by government. The formation of the Baltic Union in 2032 created the perfect laboratory for what intelligence analysts now call Operation Silent Thunder. Following the economic integration of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania under the Tallinn Accords, the newly formed Baltic Council faced mounting pressure from both Brussels and Moscow regarding their increasingly independent media policies. The solution, according to leaked documents from the Baltic Intelligence Coordination Office, was elegantly simple. In March of 2034, exactly 18 months after Union formation, spontaneous protests erupted across all three capitals, demanding expanded digital privacy rights and freedom from algorithmic content filtering. The demonstrations, which appeared organic and grassroots-driven, drew over 200,000 participants and gained international media attention. However, forensic analysis of communication metadata revealed that the initial organizing messages originated from servers traced back to the Baltic Cyber Defense Institute in Tartu. The same facility responsible for the Union's information security protocols had been systematically seeding protest coordination across encrypted messaging platforms for 6 months prior to the demonstrations. The operation served multiple strategic purposes. First, it provided the Baltic Council with plausible justification for implementing their pre-drafted digital sovereignty framework, which actually expanded government monitoring capabilities under the guise of protecting citizen privacy. Second, the controlled nature of the protests allowed authorities to identify and catalog genuine dissidents who joined the manufactured movement, creating comprehensive surveillance profiles without triggering traditional civil liberties concerns. The most sophisticated element involved the strategic timing of police responses. Crowd control measures were calibrated to generate enough visual drama for international news coverage while ensuring no actual policy changes occurred that would threaten the existing power structure. Internal communications described the protesters as unknowing participants in what the Baltic Council termed a constitutional stress test, designed to demonstrate the Union's commitment to democratic values while simultaneously strengthening state information control mechanisms.